We hope you enjoy this episode of the Modern Divorce Podcast. But first, an important message for our listeners.
Embarking on a new chapter? Zach Nutzman of the Darwin Wall team at Realty One Group is your go-to real estate expert in Arizona, specializing in guiding couples and families through their real estate needs while experiencing a divorce. Modern Law's trusted partner, Zach, brings expertise, confidence, and compassion to your real estate journey. Let him help you navigate this challenging time. Zach Nutzman, your modern solution in real estate. Hello and welcome to another special episode of the podcast. I am joined today by Maricopa County Sheriff candidate Colonel Frank Milstead. Colonel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Billy. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoy talking about what's going on in the race.
Well, I've got a lot of questions, but first, can you tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to run?
You bet. So I'm a native Arizonan, born and raised in Phoenix, went to Central High School, joined the Phoenix Police Department in 1985. I know that just makes me an old guy, but spent 25 years there. And then Mayor Scott Smith, who was the mayor in Mesa, asked me to come out and be the chief of police in Mesa in 2010. So I did that, had a great career at Mesa. And then when Governor Ducey was elected to be the governor, he asked me to come run the Arizona Department of Public Safety. So I was the colonel for the Arizona Department of Public Safety during his term as governor. Probably the biggest honor of my life. My dad was also the director of the Arizona Department of Public Safety. He was appointed by Governor Babbitt back in 1980. And so some 35 years later, I guess it's 35 years later, I get the same appointment from a new governor. So it was pretty awesome.
That is pretty exciting. So, Department of Public Safety has actually come up recently in the gang classification of the Gilbert Goons. And can you talk a little bit about the role of the Department of Public Safety?
Yeah, so the Department of Public Safety is a very big and complex agency, a lot of scale to it. So it consists of the state troopers, the highway patrol guys, state aviation, and what you're getting at is the state gang task force. What used to be the Arizona Border Strike Force until Governor Hobbs destroyed that. It's the Counterterrorism Center, State Laboratory Service, State Radio Service, State Education and Training for Law Enforcement. And then there's a bunch of licensing for school board members and tow trucks and a lot of those type of things that exist within the department.
Wow. So this is a big department. And when did you stop running that?
So I left there in 2020, right about the time that COVID started. And I started my own consulting company, and I worked as a consultant now for the last 4 years. And it's been a great job. I've stayed very connected with law enforcement. I do public safety coaching and counseling. I do a lot with technology. But at the end of the day, and this is not to be self-aggrandizing, but I'm very good at running large police agencies. And the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office has been under the control of the Department of Justice for the last 10 years. And somebody needs to fix that. And it needs to be someone who has a lot of experience in running large agencies and actually can work with the DOJ. And as you know, you only have to watch news for about 5 minutes anywhere that there's no trust in the DOJ. They think they're corrupt. But somebody still has to work with them to alleviate these problems. And my thought is I'm the guy for the job. I have a good bench. I have a lot of people that I've brought together in other projects. And I think I can galvanize a group of people together to help us solve this issue with the Department of Justice with good leadership and good policy.
Okay, so I know what you're talking about, but I would like you to explain a little bit, back up and explain what is the DOJ doing inside the sheriff's office for the last 10 years and why haven't the other sheriffs been able to get them out?
So there was a lawsuit when Joe Arpaio and Jerry Sheridan were there. Joe was the sheriff and Jerry was the number two. And the department thought that they were targeting minorities incorrectly, stopping people based on the color of their skin or profiling, and not based on criminal conduct or civil traffic citations or things like that. And I don't know. And then there was also the Melendez lawsuit, which was a traffic stop out by the Salt River on a guy who was I believe he was a school teacher, that he was stopped and detained, and he thought he was stopped and detained based on the color of his skin, filed a lawsuit, won the lawsuit. And because there was some inflexibility with the leadership of the department, they came in and started overseeing what was done, and they wanted to revamp the culture and what went on at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, and so was this in regards to SB 1070?
It's part of that, but what I think happened was even before SB 1070 was dismantled, because this happened. So you go back 10 years. This is 2024. This is 2014. So it's probably right at the beginning of 1070.
Got it. Okay. And what is it that the DOJ needs to see to get out of the department?
Well, that is a good question, because according to the previous sheriff, Paul Pinzone, they kept moving the goalpost and they wouldn't let them succeed. So until I actually get into the department and be able to interview the monitor, interview the federal judge, Judge Snow, I'm not sure that I completely understand, because you can change culture in a police department in 1 or 2 years, and you can change policy in a department with good leadership in 90 days. So the fact that it's 10 years later, there's something going on that's not right. And I don't know if they push back and not done what they were asked, if they did what they were asked and they truly moved the goalpost. But I can tell you what I do know for sure is nobody is safe for Maricopa County, because the DOJ has been there for 10 years. It's horrible for recruitment. It's horrible for retention. It makes running the entire operation very, very difficult, because there's $40 million a year of taxpayer dollars that could be going to pay and equipment and technology within the sheriff's office, that's going to pay the Department of Justice and a federal monitor and a bunch of people working for the federal monitor to look at things. It's just a incredible drain and encumbrance on top of the agency itself.
Yeah. So it seems like we're at a really hard time right now, where it's a hard time to be a cop, and there's not a lot of trust between the public and policing, and it's harder than ever for police to do their job correctly. How would you address that and build trust?
So you're exactly right, and it is difficult. But I also believe that the majority of the population believe in policing and they believe in the police. But I don't believe that we're there with the media. And I think the media is responsible at a high level of trying to erode the trust. And I'll give you an example. There was an article that came out just a couple of days ago, and it says, police officer shoots and kills shoplifting suspect. Well, that was true. But what the headline should have said was, fleeing shoplifting suspect shoots at police, is killed with return fire. So yes, he did shoot a shoplifting suspect, but only after the shoplifting suspect was shooting at the cop. And I don't know why the media does that. They all have families. They all have interest in a safe community. But I almost think at times it goes back to the fact that if you can erode the trust in as many institutions as you can, then the people that will have the most power are the people that will tell you what to think. And it's almost George Orwell again. And it to me, if you had a chance to govern, the first thing you build is public safety, because public safety gives you economic growth. It gives you tourism. It gives you housing booms. It just makes it, nobody wants to move to Oakland because it's not a safe place to be. I mean, so why would you want Phoenix, Arizona, Maricopa County to be like San Francisco or Oakland or Seattle? I mean, it's not good for us who live here.
Right. And is it a challenge right now to recruit officers?
It is. We're losing a generation or two of young women and men who want to serve. The good news is when you're 21 years old and you have an idea in your head, there's not much that can change your mind, as we all know from being 21. And when I was 21, it probably wouldn't have mattered what many people said. I mean, even my parents would have said, it's dangerous. You got to be careful, Frank, this and that. But kids who really want to do the job, it's kind of like going to the military. They're going to go in and do it because they want to do it. But those people that are kind of on the edge, well, I really don't know if I want to do that or do something else. We're losing those people because I don't think they want to be the next viral video. They don't want to be ambushed. They don't want to be chastised by the media for just going out and doing a good job. And this inversion of responsibility in policing is really complex, where the bad guys are responsible for nothing and the police are responsible for all parts of whatever happens. And again, when I started, the public respected us, the media loved the police, parents respected us, they supported our decisions and helped discipline the kids and help the kids make good decisions that didn't close doors. Well, now it's almost vogue, it's in to reject authority, to videotape the traffic cop making the stop and to post it and try to make something out of nothing. And it's a very odd time we live in.
Absolutely. And I think we all understand that there's a balance. You have to balance the civil rights of the public and also have safety. And right now we're kind of not in balance. How would you proactively communicate and show your work and stand up for police?
So that is the beauty of the sheriff. So the only elected law enforcement leader in the entire nation is a county sheriff, and it's pretty much nationwide. So when I was the chief of police in Mesa, I worked for the city manager and the mayor and the council, and I answered to them. When I was the director of the Arizona Department of Public Safety, the governor and his chief of staff were my boss, and those are the people that I answer to. The sheriff is elected. The sheriff works for the people. The sheriff gets to represent the police department and law enforcement because we work for the people. And the people that live in this county, they want a safe county. They want us to do something about migrant crime. They want us to do something about school safety and organized retail theft. You brought up the Gilbert Goons. The public wants that corrected. They want that enforced. They want that issue. They want communication. They want transparency. But if I'm elected, I don't have to worry about whether, like, if I worked for Governor Hobbs, we wouldn't have a symbiotic relationship. I mean, I did with Governor Ducey. He was great, but Governor Hobbs does not support law enforcement. Kate Gallego, the mayor of Phoenix, she doesn't support law enforcement. It shows in everything that they do. So if for me, it'll allow me, working for the people, to speak about the good work that the women and men of law enforcement do, represent them at the highest level, provide good world-class police service. And one of the beauties about being a police officer is when the phone rings and someone says, hey, this is 911, what's your emergency? We only ask you two questions. Where are you and what do you need? We don't care who you pray to. We don't care what your race is. We don't care who you love. We don't even care if you have a credit card. We're going to come out and give you world-class service. And if you live in an urban environment, we'll be there in about 4 or 5 minutes in an emergency situation, and we'll provide you world-class police service. So I think the simple answer to your question is it allows me to speak the truth because I work for the people.
I'm sure you're familiar. In Pinal County, there is an Instagram account that is an Officer Frank.
Yes, I know that.
Okay, so you know this account. I feel like it's been really effective at kind of, I don't know, showing the sheriff in Pinal County as a real human and as kind of a good guy. And what do you think about that?
So I have a couple thoughts. First off, I actually like the idea. Mark Lamb, the sheriff in Pinal County, who's running for U.S. Senate, I consider him a friend of mine and one of my brothers. If anybody watching doesn't know Mark Lamb and you see him on TV, he is really that nice and that affable of a guy. He's just a good human being. Him and his wife Janelle are just amazing people. Frank, the traffic guy, I know what he's doing. Sometimes I think there's a little too much showmanship, and sometimes it's a little bit onerous or officious the way he conducts things. Some of it I don't like because I think we're almost making fun of people, and I don't really think that's proper on a traffic stop. But other times, I think he does a really good job. So I think it's kind of hit and miss. And I know Sheriff Lamb goes out and rides with him periodically, and they traffic stops. But I think the best part of it is they show the challenges that just a traffic officer has contacting somebody and trying to get a driver's license, explain to them why they stop them. Just all of the combative nature that some of these people have just because they were speeding or, driving crazy.
Hey there, co-parents. It's Billie Tarascio with Modern Law, and let me tell you about our Family Wizard, our preferred co-parenting app. It's a game changer. I use it myself. With features like documented calls, secured messaging, shared calendars, and more, our Family Wizard makes co-parenting smoother than ever. Trust me, I've seen the difference that it can make. Join the over 1 million parents and family law professionals who trust our Family Wizard to make co-parenting easier. Ready to take some stress out of co-parenting? Head to ourfamilywizard.com/modern law. Right. Okay, so having a social media account would not be part of your plan to communicate to the public.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I just would change the tone of that, that because I've been doing videos for internal departments since I've been leading departments. I had a video called Off the Cuff that I would do every month at Mesa, and I did another one at DPS, and it was really for internal stakeholders. But I have no problem talking on social media, but I don't want it to be officious. I want it to be a very common sense conversation about what's going on. I would even be open to the idea that we figure out a way to do questions and answers with the public, because one of the things that I truly believe internally is even if I make decisions that somebody or a group of people don't agree with, it's a lot easier to digest those things that they're not happy with if they at least understand why you made the decision. They still may not agree with you, but they realize that the decision wasn't arbitrary or capricious, that there was some logic, whether they agree or disagree with why I made the decision.
Yeah, I agree. That helps a lot. And I'm in Gilbert, and I'm surrounded by people who are paying attention very, very closely to what's going on with the Gilbert Goons and with Preston Lord's murder. And there is so much frustration by the community at a lack of communication, a lack of leadership explaining their decisions.
So I completely agree with you. I would be frustrated as well. And actually watching how that all developed and took place, I think it should have been way more transparent, way more open. I think the chief should have been on the news with the chief from Santan Valley. Every day they should have been holding a press conference or talking about what was going on so the public was assured that something was happening. And then it also gives parents or guardians, custodians, whatever you want to call the person that looks after you, it keeps them informed so they can help their children, their kids make good life decisions, that they don't get caught up in one of these messes where, if you look at the story behind Preston Lord, he was truly a victim of a victim. I mean, he had nothing to do with any of it. And it was just a bunch of bullies that decided to beat the guy to death. And to me, it's one of the most horrific things I've ever heard of or seen. And especially for me, because when I was a kid, my brother got killed. I was 11, he was 15, and he was killed in an accident. And it was devastating to my family. It tore my parents apart. Devastating to us. There was 4 of us at the time. I was left with my sisters, and how that felt. And it was an accident. I mean, it was just kids being kids, and how he got killed. No one was wrong. They just were being kids, and we all did things that could have got us killed when we were kids, and most of us survived. But this is somebody that was literally murdered. He's a teenage kid, and he's a good kid, and didn't bother anybody. And it's just horrific.
It is. And people are angry, and they're angry at the police communication, and they're angry that the police came out not that long ago and said the Gilbert Goons are a gang, but we're not charging any of them like gang members. And 3 of them just pled guilty, and they're not going to jail, and people are mad.
And I heard some of the press conference about looking at indicia for the gangs, things that indicate you're a gang member. Whether that's T-shirts, hats, things hanging, social media posts. And I don't have the information to know what they did or didn't find. But again, if you're the leader of the police department in your community, this should have been the most important thing you did, because it attacks and it hurts everybody in the community. So I don't know what Chief Solberg was thinking. I wasn't privy to that. I just know that if it was myself and my team, would have handled it much differently. And I would also tell you that when you do press conferences or you go before city council, you shouldn't have to read your statement off of a piece of paper. That should come from your knowledge and commitment as a leader and come from your heart as a parent.
Okay. Let me ask you about specific crime reduction strategies that you
Okay.
have for Maricopa County. How would you propose we reduce crime in our county?
So let's talk about what the sheriff does and the sheriff deputies. So if you're a police officer, you provide police service normally for an incorporated community, the town of Gilbert, the city of Chandler, whatever that is, the city of Phoenix, you're a police officer. If you're a trooper, you're normally part of the state police agencies, and you take care of state crime and state investigations. And if you're an agent, you're normally part of a federal bureau, you're part of the FBI, you're part of the DEA or Homeland Security investigation. You work as a federal. Well, the deputies are responsible for law enforcement primarily outside the incorporated areas of the county. So the cities take care of the cities, the deputies take care of the stuff, like at the river and at the lake, and towns that are not incorporated. They provide police service for Fountain Hills and they contract out with Guadalupe. But so what the sheriff has to do is be connected to all the chiefs and with the leader of the state police, and they need to have a symbiotic relationship where they're able to provide assistance in ongoing or problematic areas of the county. And I also think since the governor destroyed the border strike force and she doesn't support DPS, that me as the sheriff and the sheriff's deputies, we can support them and help them on their traffic stops as they're doing interdiction and trying to stop, migrants coming into the county and committing crimes and drugs and fentanyl ending up in your kid's sock drawer. Somebody's got to do that interdiction out on the highway to take care of human trafficking. So I think it's the first thing is to work collaboratively with the other agencies and make sure they know that you're there to support them. And then the other thing is to talk openly about crime trends. And how do you do that? Well, if I'm elected, I run the Maricopa County Jail. All of the major police agencies within the county, they book into the Maricopa County Jail. So you know what crimes are being booked into jail. You know what the crime trends are. You know what the waves are. You know who's getting released. You know what people are addicted to drugs. Drugs they're addicted to because they come in and they're high and they're hot, and you have to deal with those people coming down and going, cold turkey. You also have contact with every part of the criminal justice system, with adult probation, with the county attorney's office, with the other cities, city courts. You have that connectivity, but what do you do with all that information? I think you need to tell people what's going on and have a way to make sure people know, what crime trends are impacting their particular community, so people are more aware of what to be aware of.
Okay, so I have some questions.
Okay.
So if I want to make sure I understand, so I knew that the cops in the city handle the city, and then you've got county people. So the sheriff just kind of backs up each individual agency, or do you have any of your own jurisdiction?
We have all of the jurisdiction of the unincorporated areas of the county. So Maricopa County is the fourth largest county in the nation. It's 4,500 square miles. There's millions of people here, 4.7 million people. And so everything in the outlying parts of the county from Glendale to Tonopah, that's when you're headed out west, it's not part of a city or an incorporated area. That's all, their responsibility. Everything north of Mesa to the county line, when you're out by the river or heading up to Payson, all of that is MCSO. So anything that's not incorporated. So no, there's a huge piece of primary responsibility for the sheriff, but they also have to be there to help the other agencies where the mass of the population lives.
Okay. All right. So you have your own thing that you're responsible for, and you're constantly on backup for whoever needs you.
Correct.
Wow.
And then there's county islands. There's all kinds of county islands in the middle of the cities. Phoenix has county islands, Mesa has county islands, but no, and that's why and it's funny, whether you get along at the highest levels of the organization, the line level police officers, troopers, deputies, and police officers, they work collaboratively together all the time. They don't even think about it. They don't care what uniform or what patch you have. They just know when they need help, they're hoping another law enforcement officer shows up and helps them. They get along great.
How is information communicated between departments?
There is no formal communication piece. It's really by need or by collaboration. Like maybe you're doing a complex investigation where, like, even with the Gilbert Goons, I saw that the Queen Creek and Gilbert and DPS, they were all working together, so they have that formal communication. But normally, there's no ongoing communication unless some content or something's going on, or the leaders of the organization get together and meet about something particular.
Okay. So it's got to be proactive. You've got to have somebody who's building relationships.
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you already have relationships with the chiefs of police in the various?
I know every one of them.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, because I worked with most of them for 35 years. Either we grew up in law enforcement together, or when I was running the state police, we would end up at the same meeting, same information. And then even through my consulting, I've been doing public safety consulting. I've been meeting with them to show them different things, technology, and talking to them and going to their meetings ever since I retired. So I've never lost that connectivity with them. And again, I can't think of one person in Maricopa County that I don't know.
That's helpful. Well,
yeah.
If you like each other.
No, I think we all like each other.
Well, that's good.
And I think we all know, and we all have been critical of one another, but at the end of the day, we all know each other.
What are your thoughts on school safety? It's a big concern for parents, for voters. We do not like what we're seeing. What are your thoughts?
So one of my big initiatives that I've been doing with the help of a private company and a lobbyist is a school safety program in the entire state. We've taken in millions of taxpayer dollars to build out an early warning system within the schools. Now, I will tell you, I guess I want to say it's not critical, but it is critical. Maricopa County has decided not to be involved in this, but Pima County, Pinal County, Gila, Apache, Navajo, Yavapai, we have implemented and used state dollars to put this school safety system that's provided by a company called Mutual Link. And it's an early warning system for the schools. And basically, for a long story short, is if there's a school shooting or there's some sort of crisis at a school, the teacher, the principal, they all have a button, a panic button they can push, and it activates cameras. And it also takes them immediately. They don't have to pick up the phone and call 911. The button automatically connects them to the public safety answering point in the county, which is basically the dispatch center. And there will be a dispatcher or a communications operator that will automatically have real-time communication with the school. So as security, safety, law enforcement is arriving, they're being updated real time, and they give schematics of the school so they know where things are. So we've been working on that for about 4 years, but Maricopa County has decided not to participate in that program.
Well, that seems strange. I've read that
it's called nonsensical.
I mean, I read that Peoria and Mesa are both working on giving access to the police departments to their cameras for this very purpose, so that when there is an incident, and it's not if, it's when, because there are incidents all the time at schools, that the police can see into the schools and know exactly where the issue is, so that they save time. They know where they're going. They're not fumbling around. So those two districts, Peoria and Mesa, they had to do that on their own, those school districts?
Yep. They've been doing it on their own because the previous sheriff's administration did not want to participate in the program with Mutual Link and with the legislature. So they've been building out their own systems.
I see. Okay. And there's no
because the
legislation
county,
on this.
just for the clarity on that last statement, the money was given to the county sheriffs in each of the counties so they could facilitate the program.
Okay. Say that one more time.
So I'll use Maricopa since they participated or didn't participate in it. Maricopa County was given, I believe, $3.1 million of state money to start building out all of the K through 12 schools and the high schools, or so K through 12. I'm sorry, K through 12 schools and the charter schools, and that money they did not take and use with the same program that everybody else was doing. I don't know what they did with it, but they didn't do what the plan was.
Was this federal funding or state funding?
State funding.
State funding specifically for security for schools.
Yeah, for this early warning system, but basically a panic button for the schools.
Okay.
And the idea is that we would figure out how to incorporate any legacy security that was at the school already, and then once we got everybody on this panic button emergency to the public safety answering point, then we would go back and do more money and upgrade cameras and upgrade other systems and continually upgrade the schools and build them out. And we'd be one of two states in the entire nation that were doing this. Florida was doing the same thing.
Okay. And has it been long enough for us to know how it's working in these other counties?
Yeah, absolutely. The sheriffs all know what kind of successes and challenges they've been having. If you talk to Dave Klaus up in Navajo County, I think he's had a lot of success. I think Sheriff Rhodes up in Yavapai, he's been building it out. I have not had a report back from him, so I don't know where they are. I think Mark Lamb down in Pinal was having some challenges getting things operating right, but I don't know what level. My job was to build the connectivity between the company and the sheriffs.
Okay. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask you about you probably in your role as sheriff wouldn't have much to do with the border issues. Is that right?
The only thing that we would have to do is support DPS and work collaboratively with the border sheriffs if they needed something or needed help. But the other piece of it too, as there's migrant crime that's occurring in the unincorporated areas out in the county, that we're enforcing that. We're arresting people for trespassing, for squatting on private land, committing petty crimes. And so I think you have to have a robust enforcement model, but you also have to remember that the Department of Justice has a mandate on how the county can enforce crimes on minority people. So that is a little bit of a challenge, but we'll work through that with the Department of Justice as we move forward.
Okay. What else?
But migrant crime is a problem for the entire county.
Okay. And how would you address that migrant crime? How do you identify it? How do you tell the difference between migrant crime and law-abiding citizens, or not law-abiding, but they're citizens?
Well, I think it's just that because you're investigating crimes. I mean, and if you keep it as a criminal predicate of why you're doing investigation, why you're arresting, all of those other things come out in the wash. And at the end of the day, whether you're committing trespassing or theft, we enforce the crime. And if you are here illegally, then we turn you over to the authorities. So you're detained and deported if that is appropriate. But again, that's a federal thing about the deportation. And because our current administration has an open border policy, all of these people coming in, they're very hard to repatriate to where they came from, because most countries don't have the complex digital records of your citizenship that the U.S. has.
Okay. All right. What else do you want voters to know about your candidacy?
I'm the only one in the entire race, either side, Republican or Democrat, that has successfully run two major police agencies. I'm being supported by both of those agencies. Even though I'm no longer there, the State Troopers Association has endorsed me for sheriff. The Mesa Police Association has endorsed me to be the sheriff. My first police chief, Ruben Ortega from Phoenix PD, has endorsed me to be the sheriff. And I think his words were, and again, this sounds self-aggrandizing, but I guess it is a campaign, so we have to talk about ourselves. I am probably the most qualified, because of my pedigree and my experience, candidate that has ever run for Maricopa County Sheriff, having had a worked for 2 major cities, having run a state police department, been incredibly connected with the federal government, with Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security investigations that anybody has ever run. So I think it's my pedigree, my experience that's going to allow me to correct the problems and infuse, a new sense of pride and morale into the agency.
All right. And how can voters get involved and learn more about your candidacy if they want to support it?
I love that question, and I should have said that. So I appreciate you picking it up for me there. It's votefrankmcso.com. You can go to my website and learn about me. We're continually posting more and more content. We're doing more videos, but votefrankmcso.com's website, and that's the best place to learn. But I would also tell you, if you know a state trooper, you know somebody at Phoenix PD that's been there a while, or somebody at Mesa, go ask them. Say, hey, tell me about Frank Milstead. I think you'll get a good report.
I love that. Thank you so much, Colonel, for being on the show and giving us your time and sharing all this information. I really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Billy. And let's, after I win the primary, let's come back and do it again and talk about what the next steps are.
Sounds great. We'll talk soon. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Modern Divorce Podcast. Remember, anything you've heard today or anything you read online is not the replacement for actual consultation with an attorney and does not create an attorney-client relationship. Even if you called in and we spoke to you, you were anonymous and we don't have your details and you have not become a client of Modern Law. However, we would love to speak with you, or you should seek out the advice of legal counsel or counseling or any other expert near you. And if you have an idea for a show topic or you need to speak with an attorney in Arizona, you can reach me at info@mymodernlaw.com.